You don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
They looked at just 12 southern states between 1877 to 1950. Turns out there were 3,959 victims of what they call racial terror lynchings.
My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby has anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks I give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Slavery was justified morally, biologically, theoretically, scientifically, everything else. And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma.
In my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
What the gay rights ordinance in San Francisco, the main focus is to prevent the people who are already employed, who are gay, who, if they want to come out and break down the stereotypes, prevents them from being fired.
I am not calling the gentleman, Mr. Meadows, a racist for doing so. I'm saying that in itself, it is a racist act.
Is this the land of the free and the home of the brave? No! Is this a land with liberty and justice for all? No! Is this one nation, indivisible, under God? No! Either let us practice the democracy we are preaching, or shut up.
Well, there's no single, simple meaning of the term revolutionary. A revolutionary is a man or a woman who is a lot of things, but basically, the revolutionary wants to change the nature of society in a way to promote a world where the needs and interests of the people are responded to.
It doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand your ground defenses that these people raise. Then they get off. I am a mother too. And I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover today asserted that the Black Panthers represent the greatest internal threat to the nation.
Every incident that have been tipped off in this country in the last 2 years up north have been tipped off by uniformed police. Now, I'm not saying the police is right or wrong. I'm saying when you have these incidents that's tipped off with this one symbol, then we should look into it and see what it is. When 22 million people, be they black or white, start hollering police brutality, then it's time to start listening to 22 million people and going in. A lot of people say, well, it's not police brutality. Police brutality is not when a cop necessarily knocks me upside the head. It's when a cop calls me nigger when he's making the arrest. It's when he handles me wrongly in every process of processing the arrest. This is a form of police brutality.
America's not unique in its sins as a country. We're not unique in our evils. I think where we may be singular is our refusal to acknowledge them. And the legends and myths we tell about our inherent, goodness to hide and cover and conceal so that we can maintain a kind of willful ignorance that protects our innocence. I've had the privilege of growing up in a tradition that didn't believe in the myths and the legends because we had to bear the brunt of them.
Republicans in February blocked Senator Bernie Sanders' bill to provide $21 billion in medical and other benefits for veterans.
When our men and women come home from war, some wounded in body, some wounded in spirit, I don't want to hear people telling me it's too expensive to take care of those wounded veterans. I don't accept that. If you think it's too expensive to take care of veterans, don't send them to war.
Back in 1998, a black man, James Byrd Jr., accepted a ride from 3 white men. Instead of taking him home, they drove him down a remote Jasper County road, beat him, and dragged him for 3 miles behind their pickup truck.
I am, I think, quite disgusted, really, to be honest, that as Muslim legislators, we are constantly being asked to waste our time speaking to issues that other people are not asked to speak to, because the assumption exists is that we somehow support and are for, right? There is an assumption. So I want to make sure that the next time someone is in an audience and is looking at me and Rashida and Abdul and Sam, that they ask us the proper questions that they will probably ask any member of Congress.
I think the only thing that's really changed is the black woman.
If I love you, I can't lie to you.
Of course you can lie to me, and you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. What Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
All right, I accept that.
Of course you'll lie to me, because I don't even want to care. What does the truth matter? And why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you the way I
must.
treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell. Because I love you, I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me. Is that too much of the black woman to ask of the black man? For 10 years, so that we can get a child on his feet that says, yeah, father smiled at mother. He talked to me about school today.
How many bales of cotton have you picked? How many beatings have you taken? He couldn't say nothing.
Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people.
A boy last week, he was 16 in San Francisco, told me on television,
Thank God we got him to talk. Maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now, he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house. We're talking about human beings. There's not such a thing as a monolithic wall or, some abstraction called the Negro problem. These Negro boys and girls who at 16 and 17 don't believe the country means anything that it says, and don't feel they have any place here on the basis of the performance of the entire country.
Now, Jim...
No, am I exaggerating?
No, I certainly could not say that you're exaggerating.
My name is Legacy Garner, the daughter of Jim Miller and my dad, Eric Garner. No justice, no peace.
I think also the next generation of Democratic
Mic check, mic check.
that are blacker, that are browner,
What's
and
the
they
word?
are a rising electorate.
Let me pause this before YouTube try to cut me off for thinking that I'm trying to show something live. So, as you guys see in the title, today is South Carolina's primary, right? Right? I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's going on. Let me try to, in addition to doing that, Mexican police chief make a deal with ruthless assassins. What? Okay, so how you guys doing? How's your weekend going? So I don't know if you guys know yet, but as it goes, Biden has seems like Biden has won. He has won South Carolina. What I don't appreciate right now is that they're having this. They're talking about South Carolina as if, the majority of the votes are the tally of the votes are in. They're at only 14% reported. But obviously you can tell who's going to win. I understand that. But how they're speaking is if somehow he's the comeback kid. As if they don't know that South Carolina, how conservative is South Carolina, first off. Even black people, like as Democrats, it's a very conservative, I want mainstream. I mean, you got Jim Clyburn, the guy that's the majority whip there, that endorsed Biden. It's all about relationships. They're a part of the good old boys. I've been knowing you. You probably helped me get in the office, and this is what we're going to do until the end. And they probably made some pact years ago. This is how we're going to help each other. And if you listen to Jim Clyburn, he's the majority whip, he said, his decision was made, he said, months before he even came out. He had already made his decision based on his relationship with Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? I just want to see. Let me see what they're talking about right quick.
Right. I mean, they are splitting this vote off. You can say whatever you want. Pete and Amy and Biden.
You know what? They're trying to say that. That's another thing, too. For some reason, they think that the more conservatives stay in the race, that they're splitting the vote up. I don't know if you guys watched the other day, but I did there's a website, a polling that shows you like the majority of Biden supporters, their second choice is Bernie Sanders. It's not another moderate Democrat. It's Bernie Sanders, because the people that like Biden like him for him, not really because of his policies, but not really. It's like I'm used to him. I like him, but the majority of his supporters, their second choice is Joe Biden. So I mean, is Bernie Sanders. So when you hear people on CNN talking about, oh, Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and all these people, if they drop out, then that'll give more delegates to Biden. You know what? That's really not true. And for me, I say drop out, and then I think they'll really be able to see how much they'll be kicking themselves in the ass, because just because they're moderate and they drop out doesn't necessarily mean that those people that supported them is going to go to a Joe Biden. You know what I mean? And this is what another thing that like irks me the most is that these people have been had such a hard on for Joe Biden winning, and they love Joe Biden so much they couldn't wait for this day. I mean, so much so that they disregarded everything that Bernie has done up until this point. Period. Think about when not Joe Biden, I'm sorry, Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders won Iowa. I mean, when he won a popular vote in Iowa and barely lost, and that still could be contested in Iowa. Oh, well, Bernie's supposed to be bringing out the younger vote and this movement. He wins in New Hampshire. They have something to say against, well, this and that. He wins, where else did he win? Then he wins in Nevada. He wins three places, and they reluctantly start to say, oh, well, he actually won. Biden wins this one. We don't even know. They're thinking he may have won by double digits, and maybe so. But right now we don't know. It's only 14% of the vote in, and all of a sudden he's the comeback kid. All of a sudden he's the comeback kid. That's amazing. But I'm not surprised by it. I'm frustrated by it. I hate it because these people have what you call a bully pulpit. Like, everyone listens to them. Like I was talking about yesterday. Like, these people they're what do you call it? They're betting on voters' ignorance, man. They're like kind of hoping that voters just walk in not knowing anything and go vote based on their quote unquote trusted news outlet. That's kind of what they're betting on, and so they have this thing is what we call manufactured consent. It's right. It's like manufactured consent means that they tell these lies, they tell these stories, and so what it does, it starts to like seek in. Almost think about like Inception. It seeks into a person's mind. You hear something all the time. Think about it. If you hear something all the time, all of a sudden that can become true. You think about that when you think about like stereotypes of different people. You hear that Asian people can't drive. All of a sudden, that's the first thing you hear. That black people like watermelon. All of a sudden, that's the first thing that comes up in your head. You hear a thing a certain amount of times, you start to believe it. So if you can hear that, oh, Biden is the best candidate to beat Trump, then guess what? You start to believe it. If you're not out here kind of campaigning or paying attention, you start to believe that, oh my God, Biden is the best person to beat Donald Trump. Biden has a terrible past, and I'm gonna get into that again because a part of my intention is to frustrate Biden's. I don't think Biden has a chance at all, but only thing, I mean, I can go by what I've seen and what I've known based on like my time traveling and covering the 2016 elections and covering, just different Democratic parties up until this point, that Biden is a liar. I don't know if you guys knew this because they're not reporting on it much. Biden just lied last week and said that he got arrested with Nelson Mandela when he went to visit him. A complete lie. And I'm going to show you a whole lot of other lies that Biden has said throughout the years. But this has happened a couple days ago. He lied and said he got arrested with Nelson Mandela. But this is what he's used to. I mean, this is his third time running for presidency, right? His first time that he ran for presidency, he dropped out of the race because he got caught plagiarizing a speech. Everybody on IG was happening. Go to YouTube or my YouTube or Twitter and check me out. You'll be able to see the graphic and everything. Right now, you just see me in the green screen because Instagram doesn't have a stream key. But if you guys want to check me out, and you can hear it better as well because I got the mic. It's all connected to that. On YouTube, I'm on YouTube Live right now, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you go on any of those, you'll be able to see me right now. So, but this is what they're candidates like Biden. They grew up in an era where there are only CBS, NBC, ABC, 3 outlets, 3 news outlets. So that means that any information had to funnel kind of through that outside of like print, New York Times and things like that. So they were betting on being able to control the narrative. They haven't adapted to the fact that they don't control the narrative anymore. So they still have those habits. They still tell lies. What's up, Raj? Hey, go on either Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, and you can see the graphic and everything and hear me better. But they haven't adapted to this moment in time. And so they still continue to have the behaviors that they have for the politics back in the day, where they can lie and kind of just manipulate their way to a presidency and not be challenged. But as we're going to see, especially with Joe Biden, that's really who I'm highlighting right now, because as you see, he won. And I want to talk about some more things as well. Like, what does that mean going into Super Tuesday? He hasn't campaigned at all. He doesn't have any money in the 14 states. This is how he felt about his campaign, that he hadn't put any money in the 14 states that will be voting, which is the largest amount of delegates available in a Democratic primary. I think it's a third. It's a third of all delegates that you can receive throughout the primary. A third of them will be available in 3 days. And he hasn't campaigned. He hasn't put any money in any of those states. And it's because he honestly didn't know how he was going to how it was going to work out for him in South Carolina. He's about to speak right now on CNN. I want y'all to see it, but I know last time I did this, and I kind of streamed CNN, like live streamed them. I got cut off. We were suspended. So he's just walking out right now, and he got this shit-eating ass grin on his face, as if he did something. I want to make it plain and clear that there's nothing about Joe Biden that I like. So when yes, I'm frustrated. I'm upset. I do, because he's a liar, because he's disingenuous. Period. There's nothing about his politics or him as a person that I like at all. So I want to make sure that this is clear. I don't want you to think that, oh, he's just upset. I'm absolutely upset. I'm frustrated because I understand people that are coming into the race right now that hasn't followed the debates, that hasn't followed him, that's not looking, is a lot of times, first off, South Carolina is a very conservative, middle ground, Democratic electorate. You know what I'm saying? They're not, they think liberalism is motherfucking Hillary Clinton. That's a neoliberal. They think that's progressive Hillary Clinton. So this is what I'm saying. I mean, she won in 2016, but it was like, she got 89% of the vote. So come on. They're very moderate, kind of middle right Democratic electorate. So don't get it twisted. This is not, people try to say because they have a large black population, like this is what the country is. It's not. It's not. The majority of people out here voting is based on comfort. They're nervous. They're scared. And a lot of people aren't really paying attention to exactly what, let's say, who is that? Raj Also, it's obvious that he isn't mentally fit. It's obvious, dog. Thank you for bringing that up, Raj, on Instagram. It's completely obvious that he's not. I'm going to show a video of yesterday. He said, I want you guys to vote for me. I'm running for Senate. This is what Joe Biden said last night, that he was running for Senate. They talked about it on the Breakfast Club this morning. He got donkey of the day because he was running for Senate. And then he said, y'all vote for Biden, not the other Biden. Vote for this Biden, not the other Biden. Oh, this is Alex. What's up, Alex? What up, bro? My bad. And who else is that? What's up, Kimberly? I miss you, boo. But that's Black Jesus' best friend. Nah, that ain't Black. I mean, Kim, Obama was trying to get the Midwest vote. That's why he put Biden. Remember what Biden said about Obama when he first came. Oh, the only reason that people are voting for him is because he's articulate, clean. I'm about to show y'all all these videos. So everybody that's on IG, go to Twitter or YouTube or Facebook so you can see the actual video and see the graphics and everything that's going on. But as my frustration grows, let me just show y'all this. So look, I want y'all to subscribe, follow us. You know, I'm trying to grow the channel. We're doing this thing. So make sure you guys subscribe, follow us, like this page, hit the notification bell, because when you hit the notification bell, we get you get notifications when I go live, and you'll start getting used to it. And so in a minute, probably by next week or mid next week, I'm gonna start having a schedule where I'm gonna be going live every day at the same time, so you guys can get used to it and get used to a schedule. Let me see, where is the let me see, like, no, I need that subscribe one. Hold on, I had this one in here. I'm just finding some stuff. But as we know, Biden right now has won the where's my subscribe? All right, maybe this is it. Biden has won. And first off, we don't even know what Biden won by, to keep it 100. Like, CNN is talking like they have the majority of the votes in. They only had 18% that's been reported, but they're coming at it like, oh, Biden has. Is that me? I ordered a pizza too, so the pizza may be in. So I ain't gonna get off, but I'm gonna like leave for a second. What's up, Chad? What's up, pimpin'? Hey, go on YouTube or Instagram or IG. I mean, not Instagram, but YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and you'll be able to see the graphics and everything. So I'm gonna show some clips. YouTube, Facebook, I mean, IG don't have the stream key, so I can't do it. I can't like show all the graphics on IG, but go there so you can see everything. What up, player? Who's this right here? What up, Playboy? What's up, pimpin'? Jihad. Let me see, who is this? What's happening? What's happening, player? So I don't know if everybody know, but I'm out here. I just moved to New York a couple months ago. I'm out here, you know, just seeing what's cracking with it. But I just started this channel. It's called The Section. So I want you guys to all collaborate. Oh, Banana Kelly, what's up, pimpin'? What up, Brody? Hey, do me a favor. Go to go to Twitter or Facebook and go to The Section, or go to my page and you'll be able to see it. You can see it with the graphics. Right now you just see me with the green screen behind, but you'll be able to see everything. I want to show y'all some stuff because I need, especially black people, older black people need to understand why Joe Biden is not what this country needs moving forward. And he won't be. I just don't want you to waste your vote, because I'm gonna fuck what's going on right now in South Carolina. South Carolina is a very conservative, middle ground, democratic state. Doesn't matter what's going on with them. This guy Jim Clyburn and I respect him. I ain't got no problem. I don't got a problem with it personally, but I got a problem with a person saying, "Oh, because of my relationship with Biden, I'm endorsing." He understands his influence, and he understands what his endorsement will how it will tilt a vote. And he said just because of my relationship with Biden, and I think not because of his politics and what he could do for this country and what he stands for, but my relationship, because I'm comfortable with him, I'm gonna tell you guys to vote for him. Because then we can go back to being, you know what? Black people wasn't comfortable and people of color wasn't comfortable before Trump came in. We was the same anxieties we have now we had before Trump got here. Trump is just a personified what do you call it? He's like our problems personified. He's like the issues that black people have been dealing with in America personified. Now you guys see it. Now everybody that's not a person of color see it. But we've been dealing with this. America don't look different today for us than it did when Obama was in, when it did when George Bush was in. We've always had this existence. Right now, it's just that you got a lot of liberal whites and moderates that's like, you know why they want Biden? Everybody hates Bernie and they want Biden because Biden is going to put everything behind a veil again. He's not going to change anything. He's just going to put it behind a veil where like I always say, you look at any of these pundits and they talk about what they don't like about Trump. Only thing they're going to talk about is lack of decorum. Oh, he curses and he does this. They benefit from his policies. They completely benefit from his policies. Period. They're part of the 1%. They love that shit. They know with Bernie, he's going to interrupt that. He's going to penetrate that shit. And he's really going to tax them. He's really going to open these programs that's going to really allow people to have a chance at the pursuit of liberty, happiness, liberty, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So let me see where my piece at though. Where my piece at though. Hold on. I'm supposed to have a pizza coming because I'm hungry. But yeah. Let me see. Tell them I'm on the ground floor, so hopefully. It said Muhammad left the store. Pause. My bad. I was just checking to see where Muhammad is. Muhammad is he's the delivery guy. Let me see what Biden's talking about though.
We call our democracy America. We can't survive unless we focus on our goodness. We can't build a world because the American people in the last 3.5 years have seen the alternative.
Biden is full of shit, man. And we're gonna go through and expose his full of shitness in a minute. But go ahead and subscribe, follow the channel on YouTube, Facebook. It's called The Section. What The Section is about how we feel about politics, people of color, and really everybody. It's not just people of color, to keep it a note. It's everybody. It's how we all feel about the politics, about what's going on with politics right now. And just from our perspective, I mean, you get sick and tired of people speaking up for us. Well, we got a voice to speak ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And damn. Okay. Oh. Okay, I see that little mark. I was trying to see where this thing is. Let me see. All right. I gotta make this bigger. This is I want y'all to subscribe. I'm just fixing some graphics. You'll see in a minute what I'm doing. Just to get people. All right, perfect. All right, there you go. Bam. Let's see. Bam. Okay, y'all see that? See that graphic right there? Subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe. There you go. Bam. Look at it. Look at it. Oh shit. I didn't know that noise was on there. God damn. That's my bad. I gotta change that graphic. I didn't know that noise was still on there. That noise ain't supposed to be on there. So I'm gonna change that. I'm glad I heard that because I wouldn't have heard it. That would have messed up everything. But let me see who messing with us tonight on YouTube. Okay, there go the pizza man. There go the pizza man. Give me 1 second, cause I gotta get this pizza. I gotta get this pizza. Come on, y'all look at this while I get some pizza.
I don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially.
I have done.
In a substantial way.
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
They looked at just 12 southern states between 1877 to 1950. Turns out there were 3,959 victims of what they call racial terror lynchings.
My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks I give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Slavery was justified morally, biologically, theoretically, scientifically, everything else. And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma.
So I'll take a hot second.
Young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
What the gay rights ordinance in San Francisco, the main focus is to prevent the people who are already employed, who are gay, who, if they want to come out and break down the stereotypes, prevents them from being fired.
I am not calling the gentleman Mr. Meadows a racist for doing so, I'm saying that in itself it is a racist act.
Is this the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh! Is this a land with liberty and justice for all? Is this one nation, indivisible, under God?
Niggas from the village.
Let us practice the democracy we are preaching, or shut up.
Village.
Well, there's no
days was a privilege.
Single, simple meaning of the term revolutionary. A revolutionary is a man or a woman who is a lot of things, but basically, the revolutionary wants to change the nature of society in a way to promote a world where the needs and interests of the people are responded to.
It doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand your ground defenses that these people raised, and they get off. I am a mother too, and I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover today asserted that the Black Panthers represent...
Hello? All right, I'm back. Exactly. They're trying to manipulate it, saying Medicare for all who want it. Anyway, we back. It's Saturday. So I'm here. It's a little looser than it would be. That's why I went and got my pizza and gonna eat pizza. And what else do I got? I got a beer here. I got everything I need. All that. I'm actually even eating meat. There's a couple people, I know Status Quo right now is live in South Carolina. Jordan is reporting live, talking to this ain't no New York pizza, bro. It's Domino's. I should be getting some New York pizza too. I was just thinking about that. I dead ass called Domino's. But yeah, Status Quo. I want to show y'all some of their reporting right now, because they're on the ground in South Carolina talking to voters. Let's see. Well, this is them yesterday. Jordan. Let's see. Bam. Mic check. See, this is him in South Carolina talking to some voters about how they feel about what's going on with the campaign and with the primaries, and you can kind of get an idea of, North Carolina politics. South Carolina politics. South Carolina politics, I don't know, people say South Carolina is not indicative of this country at all. It's not. It's a very conservative Democratic. Think about it. They're not liberal at all. They may say that they're not progressive. They may be neoliberals for sure. But check them out.
I go around. I've been to Iowa, New Hampshire. This is my third state. I'm talking to so many people that work a full-time job and then drive Uber or Lyft. You know a lot of people like that in the area that are working more than one job?
That, or, you either consider you might work two already, might, have another job. I think that's more common than people really seem to imagine it to be.
And you seeing friends of yours that might have not been as involved in politics? Are they taking a look at Bernie, or they're sitting it out still?
A couple friends, I see a lot of people I went to school with that, talking about voting in the primaries. So I think I would say it's a good chance, but this, like I said, it's a good turnout for South Carolina. For
middle of the day on a Friday, yeah.
For somebody that's not supposed to, be even on the map right here. They don't think that, people think like him, but it's a lot of people that do.
And what are your thoughts on Uncle Joe Biden? He's a lot of the older crowd, particularly older African Americans, seem to think he's with them. But there's a couple things that have come out recently. He's, let's just say, stretched the truth about his record with civil rights.
Yeah, I know a couple people who I've been trying to be like, come on, it's things that he's done and said that go against what he's saying that he's been for black people. This, you can't lie and think that, we just supposed to turn the cheek and just act like, oh, well, he's still for black people. No, even the Jim Clyburn thing, I didn't like that. How you go on TV and make an endorsement something personal as if everybody out here don't even have their own personal story. What about everybody else? So,
what's your name again?
Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it. Yeah.
My name is Eric Good from Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I watch you every day.
Oh, thank you so much.
I can't believe I'm seeing you in person.
Wow.
And
I'm just a guy on the internet, don't worry. What do you think of Clyburn? I mean, he's endorsing Biden, but Biden has been lying about his civil rights record. He lied about his arrest in apartheid South Africa. Sean King has exposed him lying about being, I was in civil rights sit-ins. No, he wasn't. And nobody calls him on it. Nobody in the media calls him on it. If it was Bernie, they'd be calling for him to be in jail.
Right. I'm going to get to that. We need you, Mr. Clyburn.
Okay.
And you've done great things, but we need that Health Center, Georgia Good Consumer Health Council. And Biden, I don't like how he talks about how we can't afford Bernie's plan when he hasn't shown how much his plan is going to cost. And they always say, and I want this documented, I guess it's documented through the media. They always say that we got a Medicare choice and you have to buy in. Why is it that we can't have Medicare, and if you want private insurance, then you buy into your private insurance? And I want the federal government not to regulate it, not to have any regulation. They can drop you and do as they wanted to before Obamacare. I want them I want you to be in a true free market system, and I want the Taft-Hartley Act removed if Bernie somehow make it there, because that's what's really bringing people incomes down.
That's interesting because that's actually how the rest of the world works. They have a single payer program in Canada and other places. Private doctors exist. You can't outlaw private doctors, and you could go to a private doctor. You make whatever deal with that private doctor. But there's not an intricate private insurance industry with all the bureaucracy, all the copay, deductibles, all this stuff. So yes, you can get a private doctor in other countries if you can afford it and you want a private doctor. But I'm talking to a lot of people here. It seems like we're hearing about a booming economy in places like South Carolina, but most people I'm talking to are working more than one job.
Right.
So it doesn't seem to me to be a real boom for the working people.
Right. No, no.
Just to give you some updates, I guess they're like showing about 56% of the tallies in, and Joe Biden is at 56%. Bernie is at 19%. So it does look like it's a win for Biden, which means that he won South Carolina. That's it. Excuse me. That's all it actually means. It means that he won South Carolina. He's already lost 3 states. And one, I would say, is more indicative of the country, Nevada, versus South Carolina. Because I think South Carolina Latino population is like, I don't know, like 2%. It's something crazy. I don't think there's many Asians there either. Y'all see me nitpicking? I'm trying to figure it out. But I think it's more, that's what it's more indicative of. But let's kind of get into some things that I want to talk about. And one of them is Biden's record. Biden always used this thing, they're showing how much people spent. Steyer spent $22 million. Buttigieg, 2.8. Biden, 890,000. And Bernie, I think like 800,000. Oh, I shouldn't have. I ate too much pepper. Lord. What up, Eric? I know. I got some meat on it, man. I haven't eaten meat in a minute. Give me some water. You know what I'm saying? But this ain't water though. This is oh man, I ate too much pepper. But let's get into it. Tom Steyer is about to drop out of the race. That's what CNN is reporting right now, that he's about to drop out of the race. But let's look at Joe Biden. This is something that Joe Biden did. A couple weeks ago. Check it out.
Biden with Casey Hunt dismissing Sanders' efforts to tie himself to former President Obama.
The way he talks about it, you'd think he and Barack were close buddies.
And you think they were not?
I know they were not.
Joe Biden has recently been telling voters that he was once arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela in South Africa in the 1970s when he was already a sitting U.S. Senator.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robben's Island. I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben's Island. He was in prison.
But tonight, the New York Times reviewed all available records and can't find any evidence of that arrest actually happening.
Period. It's never happened. Period. This is who Joe Biden is. He always talks about, oh, I give you a Biden word. What in the fuck does a Biden word mean? Because you's a lying MF, right? And just in case that's not enough proof for you, I'm gonna give you some other lies that, because this is how he feels about you, black and brown people. He feels like, so what? I can lie. Let's see. Joe Biden. I'm gonna put Joe Biden lies about civil rights march. CNN actually reported this the other day too. No one's talking about it anymore though. At all. his involvement. Let's see, where is it? Panel laughs, right? Let's see. I think this is it. Here you go, right here. It's not even prioritized. It's like way at the bottom on CNN, as if somehow YouTube is on Biden's campaign. Well, we don't really want this to get out, you know. Let's not prioritize it. It's a CNN clip. CNN gets priority. That's why YouTube changed their algorithm to benefit outlets like CNN and MSNBC, who they claim to be credible. So let's see this. Make sure that okay. I don't want to. Well, I guess I can. Y'all can hear me. It doesn't matter.
Lead in a New York Times profile of Joe Biden's 1988 presidential campaign, the first time he ran for president. He lied to voters, according to the New York Times, quoting aides of Biden's, about having marched in the civil rights movement. This is Biden making this false claim in 1987.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes.
And the New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood, kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
It is, and the story
It's weird or it's a lie? That's what I want to know. It's weird? No. That is really, really false. Why did he lie? That is really, really weird. All of a sudden, see, they're saying, we're not going to offend any. I don't want to call him weird. I don't want to call President Trump a racist. That's really, really weird. No, he's a really, really, really bad liar.
That in that 88 race, he was one of the younger candidates in the race. He was 44 years old. He was the new generation. But, if you haven't read the book of What It Takes about the 1988 campaign, rich chapters of Joe Biden and others, but it does point out a problem, a challenge for Joe Biden. Has he fixed that issue? When he gets very comfortable out on the stump speaking and other things, he has tended to embellish. He has tended to
embellish a lie.
Make things sound slightly rosier than they are. Now, his aides went back to say, look, he was in office marching for the idea of civil rights, but was not actually marching in the streets. But
he was in the office marching for the idea, is what his staffer said. Let's see, did it sound like he was talking about marching for the idea of civil rights?
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes.
And the New York Times reports, quote, more than
that don't sound like I'm not marching with tens of thousands of others. Where's the rest of the tens of thousands that was marching for the idea in the Senate? Or, come on, bro.
He was 44 years old. He was the new generation. But, if you haven't read the book of What It Takes about the 1988 campaign, rich chapters of Joe Biden and others, but it does point out a problem, a challenge for Joe Biden. Has he fixed that issue? When he gets very comfortable out on the stump speaking and other things, he has tended to embellish.
No, he's intended to lie. When he gets real comfortable, he has lied. And we're going to get into some more lies in a minute, because Joe Biden lies a lot. But I give you a Biden's word. I give you a Biden's word. That's what he always says. I give you a Biden's word. How profitable is a Biden's word is what I want to know. How significant? How much weight does a Biden's word hold? Well, based on tonight, it holds a lot. It's probably not even a Biden's word. I would say Jim Clyburn. But it holds a lot. Or does his relationships hold a lot? I'm going to revisit last night, because I think Al Sharpton, who there's nothing about, really, I think he's a what he is, I'll keep to myself right now. But I don't. A lot of times, I don't think he's genuine. Every now and again, he becomes genuine, and I think the other night when he endorsed Bernie Sanders, it was a genuine moment for him. But yeah, and I want y'all to see that. And it almost seemed like all of a sudden he's genuine. He's never been genuine to you before, but now he's genuine. And I would say yes. I think both can be true in the same moment. You can have a disingenuine person in the moment be genuine. And I think in that moment he was genuine. And I'm going to show that to you in a minute. Other lies on Joe Biden. This is our Joe Biden night. Let's talk about why his first race, 1988. The reason why he dropped out of that race. What happened to Joe Biden? So right now, we already know that Joe Biden has embellished. Happened to embellish a lot when he gets comfortable on the stage. This is what they say. That's what he happens to do, right? So let's talk about embellishment when we talk about Joe Biden. And if you guys are just tuning in right now, please subscribe. And if you're wondering what's going on, Joe Biden has just won the South Carolina primaries, and I'm irritated by that. So I don't want you to think that I'm not. If you're thinking in your head as you watch this, oh, he just mad. I'm upset because I think people are being duped. And I'm sick and tired of black and brown people being duped. Always thinking there's some disingenuous white person that's showing you who they are that can save us, and it's just not the truth. He's showing you who he is and who he will be, and this is all recent. I don't know if you guys just logged in, but I just showed you right now where Joe Biden lied and said that he was arrested with Nelson Mandela. Hopefully you guys saw that. If not, rewind it a little bit and go and watch that. He just said that and was questioned about it. And then we just saw where he lied and said that he was a part of civil rights marches. He just lied about it. And we shown that. No one's the news isn't talking about it. They just so happy and they're like, ooh, my paycheck, I ain't gonna get no money snatched out of my pay. It's almost like tax time. Joe Biden wins. That means, oh, I'm gonna get a high tax return. If Biden wins, my tax return gonna be right. This is what they care about right here. People on the news. Joe Biden winning does a lot for their pockets. Period. They know that they know that Bernie isn't with that. Okay, let me go. Let's see. Joe Biden plagiarized his speech. The thing that knocked him out of the 1988 campaign. I think Washington Post does a real good parallel, a good side by side of lies and scandals. What Joe Biden conventionally forgets from Obama's 8 years. Let's see. 11 years ago. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. So I want you guys to pay attention. You'll see every person that he stole the speech from when he was doing speeches as he was campaigning for the presidential nomination in 88. This is the guy that says the Biden word actually means something. I'm gonna give you a Biden's word, as if that means I'm beyond lying. I can't lie. Damn near like Jesus can't. You know, Jesus can't lie, right? Here you go, check it out.
But this standard is not a measure of how we can evaluate the condition of our society. It cannot measure the health of our children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
Let us pledge that our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge, and meet any hardship to secure the blessings of prosperity and the promise of opportunity for our children.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
And I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university?
Why am I the first connect in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Glenys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
No, it's not because they weren't as smart. It's not because they didn't work as hard. It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
Does anybody really think that they didn't get what we had because they didn't have the talent or the strength or the endurance or the commitment? Of course not. It was because there was no platform upon which they could stand.
Look at that. There was no platform in which it was for them to stand. And everybody that's on Instagram, go on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube and go to either mine or the section so you can see the graphics and the videos that I'm showing. Because right now on IG, you can't see it. And you ain't going to be able to understand the context in which I'm arguing my point. But this is Joe Biden right here. Lying. That's an example. So I've shown you 3 examples of him lying, right? I've shown you him lying about marching in the civil rights movement, which CNN reported. I showed you him lying about being arrested with Nelson Mandela just a couple weeks ago. That Fox reported and CNN covered as well. And now I just showed you what the Washington Post covered, him talking about him plagiarizing his speeches during his first presidential candidacy. Now I'm going to show you a video I did. This is a kind of a, it's a tongue-in-cheek, but it's all true. But you're going to see what he says about. Matter of fact, I'm gonna isolate this part because I need y'all to see the reason he dropped out and the reason that he articulated before Barack Obama made him his vice president. And mind you, Obama made him his running mate because Biden wanted to get the Midwest, and he knew that middle of the road Joe or middle class Joe could help him get that vote. You know, for the racist white Midwest people that didn't want to see America with a black man, or didn't know if a black man could do it, or if black people were going to take over America because you had some moderate black president. He needed a white guy to set those fears at ease. And that's what he did. What's up, LaShawn? Hey, LaShawn, go to my Facebook or my YouTube or IG so you can see the graphics and everything, mama. And so that's why he got Joe Biden. But let me show you something what Joe Biden said about Obama and why people were gravitating to Obama back in 2008. Because I think shed more light. And this is all about hating on. I don't like Biden at all. I think our vote belongs to him. I think he feels that he doesn't have to work for anything. I think he thinks that he's already earned. He thinks that he's done enough for us already. That he should have our vote. Based on what? Oh, my firewall. His whole thing was his firewall, as if black people was a monolith. Like every black person are going to vote his way in South Carolina or anywhere. He started spewing this out after Iowa. Oh, my firewall. Like he was guaranteed to get all the votes. Which I'm arguing that point, but he got a lot of the votes today. But I don't like the insinuation before you know. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason he really got it is because of Jim Clyburn, the majority whip out there, the one that endorsed him, because his influence, which I think to me is BS, because the only reason that he endorsed him is because of their relationship, not what Joe Biden will do for this country, not how he will move the country forward, not how he would address homelessness, address poverty, address people having to work 3 jobs just to pay their rent. 3 jobs. That's not a living wage. That doesn't mean that, unemployment is at its lowest. I'm working 3 jobs. What does that even matter? I don't have time with my kids. Now all of a sudden, I don't have any influence on my children. Now my children are being influenced by maybe gang members. They out there banging because I gotta keep the lights on. So now when my kid go to jail, y'all saying where is the what do they call it? Every time a black person, something happened with black people, where are the community leaders? Where are the what's the name? But the community leaders is working 5 or 6 jobs to survive because there's no cap on rent, and all of a sudden I can go to Inglewood or something where back in the day it was $900 or something for a 1-bedroom. Now all of a sudden they building the Coliseum and they building stadiums for San Diego Chargers and everything. And now all of a sudden a 1-bedroom in Inglewood is damn near $2,000, $2,200. And that's just pushing all black people out. Or it's forcing them to have to work 2 or 3 jobs, because $15 an hour doesn't address that. That's just a start. Hillary didn't even want that initially. Biden didn't want it either. They thought it was too much. $15 an hour. You know, Amazon didn't have to pay a dime of taxes. You know how many government subsidies they received? And they made $17 billion last year? You know what $17 billion look like? Me neither. And that's how you know it's a lot. Shoot. Anyway, I need people to understand this. Let me go to hey y'all, if y'all don't know, I want y'all to follow me. People on Instagram, go to my IG. I mean, not my IG. I keep saying IG. IG don't allow me to live stream. I'm live streaming right now. So if you go to my Twitter, you can go to the section. That's what this is. The section. Either go to the section, independent, or you can go to my Tommy Tahithia on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and subscribe to the page. Like the page. It's called the section because you know what I'm saying. It was gonna be called the color section, but I don't want to isolate it and make people feel like they're not invited or their voices don't matter, because they do. But the reason I was doing the color section is because, you know, I'm colored and it's the section. But it's gonna be called the section because this is where we at. But you can see, go ahead and follow us, follow me, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share. We're gonna be doing a lot. I'm gonna be the intention is to be able to go out in the field, and like right now I would be in South Carolina covering it, so you guys wouldn't have to just see it from a manipulated CNN or MSNBC's perspective, where they have a certain person that they want to win based on, you know, their own tax demographic, and so they push this regard. Even though polls are saying one thing, they've been, y'all know they've been pushing Biden for the longest time. Polls hasn't had Biden winning since they started debates, and they've been pushing him because they want him to win. They've been hating on Bernie. I'm gonna show you these videos of them hating on Bernie. But what was I about to show you right now before I got distracted? Okay. what Bernie said about Barack when he lost. I mean, Joe Biden, I'm sorry, what Joe Biden said about Barack. Why people are voting for Barack. Not because he's intelligent, not because he has a great plan for America. No, Americans are too stupid for that. Black people, that's not how black people vote. Let me see, Joe Biden's. Obama, 2008. Let me see. He's articulate. Let's see, Obama. Put articulate, clean. That's how you got to put his clean, because he said that, oh, they finally got a recent comments on race. Let's see. Remarks, racial viciousness. Here it is right here. Check it out. This is what he said about Obama. Why people will vote for Obama. Not because we feel that his policies address the issues that we care about. Not because he's smart and he seemed like he would unite the country. No, not because of that. This is why people like Obama will vote for Obama. Just help you out.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
That's a storybook, man. You hear what he's saying? That's a storybook. Let me read what he said. He says, I mean, you got the first. Not Martin Luther King. Not James Baldwin. Not Jesse Jackson. Obama in 2008, you have the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook. This is why you Negroes want to vote for this other uppity nigga. It's because he's clean.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Look at that. Look, that's a storybook, man. Ain't no other reason they gonna want some Negro. He look at him. He looks like us. He talks like us. That's why. Not about his policy. Okay, IG. I'm about to go. So y'all follow me. Go to the other platforms, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and I'll be on there. Come see me. Come holler. But this is why. So now this is a video that I did a while ago, and it was just like he was just doing some off the wall shit. So I just did a kind of a montage of Joe Biden's his politics and how he feels about black people. Check it out.
Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the 94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill.
Ew.
Now the 2020 campaign. Joe Biden is almost certain to run for president in 2020.
Wait to see if Biden is going to get into the...
All right, let me see why. Is it starting where it's not supposed to start? Why is it doing that? It's not starting where it's supposed to start. Loop. Begin live. Remember, I don't want to remember no position. That's probably why. Okay, let's see if it worked now. The American Negro, is that not how you say it? The Negro in America. Come on, Joe. I don't buy the concept popular in the 60s, which said we have suppressed the black man for 300 years and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything we offer in this society.
We decided we were going to change the world, and we did. We did. We finished the civil rights movement to the first stage.
Word.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean.
We must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail. Away from my mother, your husband, our families. We would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. Evidence of that, the Democratic senator from Delaware.
Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the 94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill.
Ooh.
Now the 2020 campaign.
Joe Biden is almost certain to run for president in 2020. Wait to see if Biden is going to get into this race, and if so, when?
As Joe Biden is about to announce.
Bring on Biden.
Dang it.
I haven't always been right. I know we haven't always gotten things right. Back in 2010, Barack and I finally reduced the disparity in sentencing, which we've been fighting to eliminate, in crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. It was a big mistake when it was made. We thought we were told by the experts that crack, you never go back.
Goddamn pickaninny.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Goddamn pickaninny. Crack was whack. That's what the experts told you. Crack was whack. That was a lie. This is what I'm talking about. This is Joe Biden. Joe Biden don't have an honest bone in his body when it comes to politics, period. Let me, what else, Joe? What else Joe done did? He done a lot. Just trying to see which one gonna work. Oh, Breakfast Club. Donkey of the day. I'm telling you, something wrong with him. My granddaddy, when he had Alzheimer's, I remember how initially, because he was still staying on 124th Street in Compton, and they kept calling us like your granddaddy, like roaming, like something was wrong, because they would look out for him, because like he been there our whole life. I lived there. I was on the 124th till I was like 3. Then we moved to Eugene Village, and I was raised there. But everybody knew him, so they would see him roaming random. So they would hit my aunt like, something while he roaming, and she would check him out, and he would like cuss at her, but she didn't know what was going on, so she would be like, whatever, because when everything was right, he still was mean in the mud. I remember one time my father told me that he chased him out the house with a 12-gauge shotgun. So they was used to him being an asshole, but so initially they didn't know, but then they found out that he had Alzheimer's. And the things that he was doing initially, you see Joe Biden doing. And so this is an example of Joe Biden. Here you go. Joe Biden, in the beginning stages, I think, of some type of Alzheimer's or, dementia. Let's see. And this is not a joke. I'm not being funny right now. This is for real. This is just based on his actions. Whole lot of stuff that he's been doing, forgetting, rambling, Sam Malarkey.
Putting some comments on my lips. Okay. Donkey of the day for Tuesday, February 25th goes to former Vice President Joe Biden. Joe Biden has to be one of the worst presidential candidates of all time. This is his third time running for president of the United States of America, and this year was supposed to be a layup. This was the year that Joe Biden came into the series with a 3-0 lead before he even played a game. Okay, people said he was the most electable candidate, the only Democratic candidate who could beat Trump. Well, if the primaries are any indication, he hasn't proven he can beat Bernie Sanders. Hell, until Nevada, he couldn't beat Matt Pete or Elizabeth Warren. Now it's a very pivotal week. The primaries are happening in my home state of South Carolina. Drop one of clues bomb for South Carolina, damn it. 803-843-864 all day. All right, that's the crib right there. And Joe Biden is calling South Carolina his firewall. He is hoping that his popularity among black voters, older black voters, is going to propel his trash-ass campaign to victory. Well, according to the New York Post, the latest polls of Democrats in South Carolina, those polls show Biden, who once had a 28-point lead in November, has shrunken to just 5 percentage points, because the real fire is coming from the burn, otherwise known as Bernie Sanders. Okay, this is why you always have to, have to choose people over polls, because if the last few polls from presidential elections and primaries are any indication, polls don't know what the hell they be talking about. Okay, polls told us we wanted Gore over Bush. Polls told us we wanted Clinton over Obama. Polls told us we wanted Clinton over Trump. And polls told us that Joe Biden was going to be the Democratic nominee for president this year. And there's nothing anyone could do about it. That's what they said. Well, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Mayor Pete, they all said, hold up, wait a minute. Okay, y'all thought we was finished. And now Bernie is at 22% and Joe Biden is at 27%. Now, when you factor in the margins of error in each poll, the two are virtually tied. And Joe Biden is hoping that South Carolina's black Democratic voters hand him a victory and give him momentum going into Super Tuesday. If Bernie finishes first place, well, it's probably lights out for the Biden campaign. That would be a fatal, fatal shot. Now, I don't have a dog in this fight. Full disclosure, I'm waiting on the running mates for all of these guys to be announced, because the running mates for me is what will help me make a decision. Personally, I feel like the first person to announce a black woman as their VP wins. In my book, whether it's Biden and Senator Harris, Bloomberg and maybe Stacey Abrams, Bernie Sanders and maybe Senator Nina Turner. I don't know. I'm just wishful thinking here, but the first person to announce a black woman as a running mate wins to me. Now, why is Joe Biden getting donkey of the day? Well, yesterday he was attending the South Carolina Democrat Party's First in the South dinner. I was told he received the longest ovation of any of his competitors, so I have to give him props for that. But when he was wrapping up his remarks, I don't know if he had to pee. I don't know if he had to do a number two. I don't know if he was just tired, needed a nap, whatever it was. He just mailed this last line in. It was very DJ envy-ish, okay? And I have to factor...
Watch your mouth.
Shut up. This has to factor into what decision you plan to make this weekend in the South Carolina primary. Let's hear it.
And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other Biden. Give me a look, though, okay?
You had to go to the bathroom, bro.
If you thought Joe Biden was an uninspiring candidate before, if you were not feeling Joe Biden because of the 94 crime bill that he wrote, if you weren't feeling Joe Biden because you heard that he's been accused of inappropriately touching women, if you don't like Joe Biden because he doesn't have a black agenda, if he has not moved you at all this election cycle, then how does this clip make you feel? How can you vote for someone who doesn't even know what the hell they are running for?
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
Joe Biden is running for the highest seat in the land, President of the United States of America. He was first elected to U.S. Senate in 1972. It's 2020. Why in the hell would he think he's running for U.S. Senate in 2020? You know why it's so easy for him to say that? Because it's all rehearsed. It's all robotic.
It's all rehearsed.
It's the same BS, redundant rhetoric so much that it's all a blur. Doesn't matter if it's 1972 running for U.S. Senate or 2020 running for president. All these Negroes look alike to me, okay?
All these Negroes look alike.
You've seen this before. I mean, when you've seen one black blind Democratic loyalist, you've seen them all. Okay, now it's another part of this clip we have to dissect real quick, so play it.
If not, vote for the other Biden.
Who the hell is the other Biden?
Vote for the other Biden.
Play
Don't
the whole thing
vote
in its
for the other
entirety
Biden.
just one time, please.
And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other Biden. Give me a look, though, okay?
Who the hell is the other Biden? Play that for me in HD. I have to make sure I'm hearing what I'm hearing.
If not vote for the other Biden.
You know the other Biden.
Look, but look, it's funny. He's making it tongue in cheek, but that's a serious thing. He's been doing this throughout before the campaigns. A lot of people that wasn't paying attention. These kind of quote unquote gaffes has been going on for a while, and they call it gaffes, and that's why I'm saying it. But I don't honestly think it's gaffes. I think he's coming in and out of some. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but what I would say is when things look familiar, they look familiar. I've been through this with my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I see, because I hadn't seen it before until then. And it looks the same. It's either that or Charlemagne's right. All you niggas look the same and all these races look the same. I'm just trying to get in where I fit in. So whether it's Senate, President, and if you don't vote for me, vote for the other Biden. There's another Biden. That almost sounds like Hillary Clinton saying, well, there's a public you and a personal you. Really? Y'all remember when she said that, right? Like there's someone you should be in private and there's someone you should be in the public. Interesting. So, I'm just trying to get it back on CNN right quick. So if y'all don't know, just sidebar, we've had our first U.S. death concerning the coronavirus that happened in the state of Washington today. The first case was in the Bay Area of California, and the first death was in Washington. This is all attributed to the fact that Donald Trump was trying to front as if we wasn't having an issue so that the stock market would not do what it's been doing this past week, which is crashing and plummeting. And so now, because of that, they wasn't doing the testing that needed to be done to make sure that we were safe and we were prepared. So if once it did come, so now we're about a month and a half behind of testing. So by the time we, I think, catch up with everything, we're going to have a lot of people affected, not even knowing that they're affected before they're quarantined, before they're blocked off. And I feel like this is going to have a huge effect, like in the elections. I think it's a couple of things that can happen. I feel that when you think about the coronavirus and you think about what's going on and how people panic and how just people in general react to things, a few things can happen. One, majority of people just want to feel safe. And feeling safe, feeling secure will trump anything else. And if that's the case, I could see people trying to vote for Biden. Based on, the reason I say that is based on what everyone's been saying and talking, this is what we're used to, let's go back. And if you think about a virus that's killing people, and if it becomes a pandemic, I can see how that can be manipulated onto the news and people wanting some type of security, because if it becomes a pandemic and they widespread and people have to stay in their homes, and Japan yesterday canceled all primary schools. If that happens in the US during the primaries, the majority of the time when people back are against the wall, if the plan B is there, they're reaching to the plan B. That's why plan B is so detrimental to a person succeeding and doing things that they've never done before, changing the world, being influential and putting their foot down. Plan B's destroys and erodes all that when you have a plan B. Because people will reach out to a plan B in a time of panic. And if you have a pandemic, that's the time of panic. And the easy plan B would be Biden, because we're used to it. Because Trump will lose, period. Let the coronavirus consume this country in a way where people can't leave their home. That's going to stay with them. As we're going to the primaries, because we're in March right now. March, April, May, June. July is the end of the primaries. Then we go into the general. Let people have dealt 2 months or even a month of their children not being in school in fears of a virus that could potentially kill them. And this was on his watch. And Trump has no economy to lean back on, because now they're saying that there will be no gains or they won't make any money. A lot of, the stock markets. So you don't have the stock market to lean on. And we go into September like that, or August, he's going to be out. And if people are struggling with this during the primaries, I can see people leaning towards something that look familiar. Because a revolution is what you want to do let's do it. We doing it, fuck it. But when your kids are involved and people are starting to talk about, I want things to be better, and Biden has been here and he knows what to do, and he knows the people to hire, and he knows that he can get us stable. And I just want to be stable because I want to live. And you're getting all this fear mongering because MSNBC and CNN, they know how to fear monger. And they'll get these pundits on there and talk about, these old elected officials will talk about, oh no, we just need somebody because, Trump couldn't do it because Trump shouldn't have been in there. We need someone that knows the White House, and Biden knows the White House. He spent 8 years and he knows who to get to make everyone feel comfortable again. So I can easily see a scenario happening like that if the coronavirus becomes a pandemic. But hopefully we don't have to deal with that, because it'll be so the wrong decision. But that's almost Biden's only way forward, really, is a pandemic, which is terrible, because we don't need that, because the country is shifted and he doesn't get that. And why wouldn't he get that? He still thinks it's 2008. I'm telling you, his mind ain't right. Let's see. What about Biden? What else can I tell you about Biden? Let's see. What are they talking about? Okay, we already saw that. There was something else I wanted to show you guys. I think I had it yesterday. Oh, Al Sharpton endorsed Bernie Sanders the other day. And I just kind of want to show you exactly what he said. Damn, I gotta start making sure I'm paying more attention to. Eric, I see you, partner. I know, I saw Tom just dropped out. These aren't gaffes. This is cognitive decline. You're right. It is cognitive decline. It is. I agree with you, Eric. 100 is cognitive decline. All day. Let's see. So a couple of things I want to show you. That's see Al Sharpton. Let's see. Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball is a lady. She's a pundit on I forgot where she is, but she's great. We interviewed her. She probably don't even remember me, but during the People's Summit in Chicago, when I was with the Young Turks, we interviewed her. Well, she used to work for either MSNBC, and then she left because she saw the bias in MSNBC. And I'm gonna show y'all some of their bias too, because they ain't shit at all. Let's see, Crystal Ball. Let's see. Neil, I think this is, let's see, Crystal Ball. Establishment starts to kneel. Okay, here you go. This is something that she works for the Hill. This is something that I think is when I said I thought that Al Sharpton did something great the other day by endorsing Bernie Sanders, but his reasons why I thought is more important to kind of discuss and talk about.
Remarkable moment unfolded yesterday at a minister's breakfast in North Charleston for Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. At a time when Bernie Sanders has been facing a media onslaught and a candidate pile-on over comments about Fidel Castro's literacy program, Bernie found a very unlikely and highly effective, I have to say, defender, Reverend Al Sharpton himself.
The civil rights movement always was targeted by those that would use the Red Scare. They accused Dr. King of being a communist. Every major leader in the 60s, they tried to call socialists a communist. Whatever you decide to do on Saturday, do not go by those that use the socialist tag to try to separate us from what we need to do for this country, because we've been down that road before. And we are not that stupid to allow you to tell us who is what.
Now, honestly, I couldn't really tell you just how important a validator Reverend Al is within the black community in South Carolina at this point. But I can tell you his message was compelling and that Bernie Sanders could use more trusted validators making a similar case as he seeks to move from being a movement candidate to calming the nerves among older voters who have been the most skeptical of his positioning. But there was something even more interesting about Reverend Al's decision to go to bat for Bernie Sanders. This is a man who, maybe better than anyone I've ever met, understands power. He understands how to turn the tables on power when he uses TV cameras and the press to try to get justice for the often poor working-class families who would otherwise be ignored and tread upon by our unjust system of justice. He understands power when he sees the rise of Barack Obama and jumps on board from very early when it was far from a safe bet. He understands power when he sees the ubiquity and influence of cable news and makes himself an esteemed and relevant voice on MSNBC. And that introduction of Bernie Sanders was yet another recognition of power. Reverend Al was just one of the indications, though, this week that we saw of establishment figures starting to bend the knee to the likely nominee. And if they're smart, they should. Remember, Bernie just pulled off something no other candidate has ever done by getting the most votes in all 3 of the first states. Now, if any other candidate had pulled that off, right now we'd be measuring drapes and talking VP picks. Since it's Sanders, of course, we still have to live with the very real possibility of a contested convention and obnoxious media narratives about this or that pathetically outmatched candidate's comeback. In addition to Reverend Al, though, we reported yesterday on Nancy Pelosi's new comments indicating she would be comfortable with Bernie as nominee. You think anyone in this town understands power better than Nancy Pelosi? Chuck Schumer also indicated his comfort with Sanders as the nominee on Tuesday, saying, "We have a lot of strong nominees. I'm not supporting one over the other, but I think every one of them will beat President Trump." This, of course, at a time when unhinged 90s has-been pundits like James Carville have been losing their minds about the insanity of nominating Bernie Sanders, and candidates from Bloomberg to Pete to Biden have all been gnashing their teeth about the horror of nominating Bernie. Pelosi and Schumer could certainly have echoed some of that rhetoric in an attempt to blunt Sanders' momentum. Instead, they've decided the smart move is to clear the way. Even Hillary Clinton seems to have given up on her personal grievance tour and recognized both the futility of her Bernie bashing and the likely inevitability of his ascent. When asked at a film festival this week about her stance on the Democratic primary, for the first time ever, she saved the nobody likes him mean girl routine and simply said, "I'm going to wait and see who we nominate. I will support the nominee, and it won't surprise you to hear me say that I think it's imperative we retire the incumbent." Guess who else had encouraging things to say this week? Former President Barack Obama, or at least his spokesperson, Katie Hill, did. She told the Washington Post that Obama has several friends in the Democratic presidential primary and no plans to endorse. In another noteworthy development, MSNBC, the cable news handmaiden to the DNC, has benched professional wrongperson Jason Johnson. According to the Daily Beast, Johnson has been taken off of MSNBC coverage after having made derogatory comments about Sanders' National Press Secretary Brianna Joy Gray, saying that she is from the island of misfit black girls. Johnson has been, of course, at the forefront of chiding Sanders supporters for allegedly toxic behavior. Ironic. His stunning analysis has included gems like this.
He's done. And I was
really?
Yeah,
you think he's done?
I think
wow.
He's done. I was literally having this discussion with a good contact of mine who's on the campaign. I was like, I see Bernie Sanders launching his campaign and by August realizing he won't be in the top 5 in Iowa and dropping out. I don't think he'll get that far.
Great analysis there. And for his phenomenal contributions to the insight and intelligence on the network, he had been elevated into a regular fixture, including in high-profile coverage of debates and primaries. The fact that in the same week, MSNBC forced Chris Matthews to apologize, assured reporters they would be bringing in more pro-Sanders voices, yeah, we'll see, and sidelined Jason Johnson, tells you a whole lot about how they, too, are reading the tea leaves. Yes, the never-Trumpers and rich hacks like Carville and Barnacle are still putting up a big fight, but the network has evaluated their self-interest and decided that they'd better begin preparations, at least, to ultimately bend the knee. Just think about what a disastrous situation they find themselves in with the Democratic frontrunners campaign telling press that Fox News is more fair to them. All of this just tells you that regardless of the spin about a Biden comeback and Bloomberg's billions and how Bernie has a ceiling, et cetera, they can read the writing on the wall.
They read the writing on the wall. Think about that. They read the writing on the wall. And that's what you see the shift. And what shift you may be talking about? Because without any context, it kind of seems not like crystals all over the place, but you just don't understand. What does that mean? What bias? What are they shifting from? I want to give you a glimpse into what Crystal is referring to when she's talking about the shift, especially when it comes to people like MSNBC and let me see. Man.
What's up, nigga? Uncle Split.
Hold on. What was the name of that? Did I put on this phone? I'm just looking for the name of. I had that video set up. I don't know what happened. I hate when that happens. It's like Bernie Sanders. This stuff happens all the time. Let's see. That ain't it. That's yesterday. Okay. I'm just trying to find this. And Jordan is reporting at Pete and Amy, the big donors, are now bending for Biden. Interesting. Really? Let's see. Okay, let me see. I'm looking for this video, y'all. Just give me a sec. What was the name of that video? Oh, I have it right here. My bad. That's why I'm wondering. I'm like, where did I find it at? It was on IG. I guess I'll share. What the heck? What the hell? That's terrible. Where's All right, I'm about to find it. Oh, here it is right here. I just need to find the name of it. Once I find the name of it, then we can go there. Rising Up Bernie. Somebody did this. They made this so you. This is MSNBC. Rising Up Bernie Sanders. So this will give you just what she's talking about. What Crystal Ball was talking about when they said things are shifting. They're starting to jump on the bandwagon because this is how it's been. This has been a vitriol. This has been the attacks against Bernie Sanders since he's come out. And this was a campaign video that was made for Bernie Sanders by a supporter. It wasn't even his campaign. But check out the montage of what MSNBC, who almost seem as if they work for Biden's campaign. Let's go there.
Bernie is back, getting into the presidential race.
Democrats like somebody new, and that is not going to be Bernie Sanders this time.
It's really hard to imagine who the Bernie Sanders voter is at this point.
Bernie Sanders, fall back. Please get away from us.
Hey, Senator, great to see you. Thank you for doing this.
He has a kind of gruff, curmudgeon-y side that is, of course, well known. He doesn't actually smile that much.
It's almost like Bernie can't tell the difference between kids and adults.
All right, I think you're dumb. I think you're dumb if you don't sit down and learn how to read and write. No, you were not born stupid. Come here. The only way I think you're dumb, I think when you think you're dumb, because you're not.
I think you're disheveled, you're unlikable, and you're pushy, and I don't think you should be leading anybody.
How old is too old?
I think the issue is, do you seem like you're in the contemporary world? He's a socialist from the 1950s yelling at people in the same screechy voice, without smiling, without any kind of personal connection. He looked like the angry man in the center of the stage saying, "Get off my lawn." And I don't think that's a good look for the Democratic Party.
I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. You may have heard the term Bernie bro. The Bernie bro, right? Somebody who's a bit younger, whiter, I think, than the overall Democratic primary.
I'm with my magnificent vanilla brother named Bernie Sanders. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we talking about. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we talking about.
Socialism has been a manifest
disaster.
Alec would still be here today if I had known that I could come to Canada.
Alex Smith died after trying to ration a vial of insulin when he couldn't afford more.
So his idea about, free health care, he has seen the manifest atrocities that have occurred under socialism.
$1,000 got me 6 months of insulin for my son. That's still less than what I pay a month in the United States.
Gloria Steinem has suggested that younger women are supporting Bernie Sanders so they can meet boys.
Hello, Bernie. We lost our condo, got foreclosed on because of my medical bills.
I don't understand young women who support him.
I trust that Bernie Sanders is going to fight for health care and to lower prescription costs.
Of all the presidential candidates, you're the one that I trust. Thank you so much for what you're doing. You're just giving us help. Thank you. And we got your back.
I think he comes off as mean. I think he's disparaging.
Thank you.
I don't want to overpromise here.
Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl, and I can't even identify for you what exactly it is.
Bernie Sanders has done nothing between 2016 and today.
Thank you for everything you've done these last few years. You've helped to reset our political discourse, and are demanding that we center our politics around justice and equity. I am hopeful because right now, there is a mass movement of people from all over this country, rising up.
Thank you all very much.
It ain't Bernie, it is us.
If we come together, we will win. People always say, "Oh, you're being too vocal."
Hey, Bernie, you don't have to yell.
I don't feel I'm being vocal enough. We are not being vocal enough. When is enough enough?
He sounds very, very shouty.
Louder. Yeah, we gotta get louder. How many kids are gonna have to make this sacrifice and die? How can you sleep at night knowing that kids can't afford insulin? How is that possible? It's not right.
That's Bernie Sanders right there. And you see how the majority of people that go against Bernie Sanders is just the mainstream media. The mainstream media goes against Bernie Sanders, and it's because they'll be voting against their own interests if they went for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders will tax them. Bernie Sanders will make a way, just like FDR did, which when he introduced the New Deal, taxed the richest in this country. I think it was like 70% or 60% to make a way. Mind you, we would not be in this position. The rich probably would not be in the position that they're in if FDR didn't do what he did, because he took us out of a recession that no other country in the history of the world has been able to come out of. And that was because he promoted programs that we call socialist programs, which, I mean, do we call policing socialist? Do we call fire department socialist? Do we call Medicare socialist? These are all quote unquote socialist programs that have saved this country, that have given a security blanket for people if they're in a situation. I don't know if you guys traveled outside of the country and been in countries that don't have these type of programs, that if they run into hard times, and just like me, even right now, as far as moving across the country, running into issues, having a security blanket to be able to not be homeless and be able to live. I mean, this year, LA Times came out with a report, CNN reported on it, the LA County homelessness has went up 16%. So 800,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, are homeless. And we covered this when I was with Status Quo, and I went around because I was living right before I moved to New York. I was living in Hollywood, and outside of my home, I was seeing like a lot more homeless people. But in my head, I was like, oh, they must be just moving space, like moving from one place to another. I didn't think of it as more people are being homeless. I'm just like, oh, they're just shifting. And then once that report came out from LA Times, I'm like, oh, these are all new people. So I went out and started interviewing some people, and it was like, no, we just got here. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find that clip so you guys can check it out, because this is some real, let me see, homelessness in Angeles, Status Quo, just so y'all can see. Okay. Status Quo, homelessness. Man, let's see. Is that it? Is that it? Which one is it? Got a few of them. Let's see, bam. See if this one's it. Just trying to see if I have the right one. Just trying to find the right one. Where is trying, let's see. I'm just looking. Thai Republicans. Homelessness. I'm gonna put Thai. I wonder if this is. So I'm looking for the right one. I can't even find it. Damn. Spread of homelessness, capitalism. Let's see. Here you go. This is from when we were in Washington State in Canada. This is good too. I can't find the one I did in LA.
It's kind of what Bernie's talking about. A lot of progressive candidates are talking about gentrification. Seattle's kind of a nucleus for all of these things.
So we all know how fast the Seattle skyline is changing. There is record growth downtown, but one new developer coming to town, and many feel he will help transform this city.
But to truly understand exactly what's happening here, you have to travel to Vancouver, Canada.
We are here on East Hastings Street in Vancouver, BC, and I honestly have never seen anything like this. The whole street is just lined with people who I have to assume are homeless.
There's thousands of people on the street here. It's a terrible situation. Like, a lot of these hotels have been condemned too, at least several of them on this block. So There are thousands of people right now on the streets. If you come here at night, all the doorways will be filled with people sleeping. The alleys, the people are everywhere, particularly in this neighborhood. And the middle class people don't seem to realize what's going on. They seem to think that everyone on the streets is mentally ill or drug addicted, and that's just not the case. I mean, it just happens that there's no income. If you're poor, you cannot afford to find a house. There's a certain amount of those, and once they're full, there's nowhere to go if you don't have any money. The government is building a bunch of what they call modular houses. They're made from those shipping containers. They're making over 1,000 of those, and even that is only just going to barely touch the problem. They estimate that there's at least 3,000 or 4,000 people on the street, and I think it's probably more than that.
There's construction going on all the time, and there's nice housing and everything like that. However, it's just not affordable, right? So I think that's got an issue with being able to afford it, right? They need to be able to build affordable SROs. So they got to build, like the mayor was saying, he wants to give the opportunity for people to have proper housing, and I think that's a lot to do with it. Being able to have affordable housing, that's it.
Well, do you, you said that you only earn so much. What kind of work do you do?
I'm in construction. I only make $2,000 a week.
Is that enough for a living wage here in Vancouver?
Just because you have the money does not mean you have housing.
That's what we hear from a lot of people, that they work full time.
Because I have the money does not mean I get the housing. Because there's a lot of scrutiny about who comes in and that stuff like this. I mean, come on. I just want to have housing.
Do you currently?
I sleep on the sidewalk every fucking night. I'm sorry for the swearing, but I sleep on a sidewalk every night, but I work every day and I make my money, but I still cannot get housing. And I don't know why that is.
What do you want people to know about people like you who work full time, yet you still have to sleep on the sidewalk? What do you want the government to know and the people to know?
I just would like to have the affordability of getting into housing, right? When they build new projects and they have new projects and they still have housing, let it be available for us.
You've got at least 5,000 people living on the streets, homeless, right? Now, as you can tell when you walk down Hastings, this entire street is a market. This is one of the few ways that a lot of people make their income, right? By buying and selling wares, some of them used, some of them not. A lot of the merchandise you get down here is actually stolen, right? Most companies are insured for their losses, but it's a major problem here in the city as well. But we're not offered a whole lot of choices. There's not a lot of job options. We get temp agencies that gouge us, so you can never make enough money to get up and off the streets. An assistance, do you know what the average assistance? They give you $375 for living. $335. I'm on disability. Luckily, I've got one of our new modulars, which is a great program we've got in the city, and they should push that much more everywhere else. It's basically just modular buildings. They throw them up. They're temporary. The one I was in up until a week ago and I got removed was right in the parking lot of one of our SkyTrains, right? Just in a vacant parking lot. They hook up the water right out of the hydrant. Bam, there we go. That's our housing. Now, these modular buildings, they're not built to last, but, it's the same as any work camp, right? But they're great. This is a major epidemic in our city right here. This is fentanyl, okay? This, in the last 2 years, has killed off most of the homeless population in Vancouver. The street right now, compared to 2 years ago, every single bit of the sidewalk would be coated like this here. But the problem is that people aren't getting housing or people aren't moving on in life. They're being killed off.
Check this out. This morning I woke up and I came out and I was walking here about 7 a.m. and they were wrapping up a dead body here and throwing him in a hearse, and I witnessed it this morning. If you heard about that at all?
Today I was on an interview for It's basically a clean use facility, right? Which the city needs more of, but they make it so hard for these people to, a safe injection site. They make it so hard for them.
They say this.
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here at the Trolls Knoll in encampment, I guess because it's on a little grassy knoll. And it's pretty jarring. I mean, I guess it's not jarring to you because you see it too much, but this basic little tent city is right next to just really nice new apartments in a really nice area of Seattle. So Matthew, you do a lot of work with these kind of encampments and trying to help alleviate some of this. I mean, the numbers are pretty staggering with homelessness in Seattle. I think a Guardian story I just read said like over 4,000 public school children are homeless or couch surfing or whatever. Can you kind of talk about your involvement with this encampment?
Yeah, well, first of all, the statistic that we're talking about for the 4,000 Seattle public school students, that only counts people who are not necessarily doubled up or living on a couch. Those are homeless children. So they're living in a car, they're living in a camp or in a shelter. So just wanted to make that quick distinction. As far as this work goes, I've been helping in camps for about 2 years now. You know, it's hard because we did a lot of work last year around, there was a tax on big business that we were trying to pass, the head tax.
So that's kind of, that's the situation that's going on here in this country and in this continent. Some of that was in Canada as well, but they don't care about that. Like Biden he was the vice president for 8 years. Obama or Biden didn't address homelessness, period. They don't want to give it. They're about capitalizing on everyone, whether it's the homeless. If the money I need to make causes you to be homeless, oh well, you should have been on the other side of the fence, because that's what they care about, capitalism. Like I said before, follow us, subscribe, like this, tell your family about it. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Share this video so that we can build this channel up. This is called The Section. It's The Section. Yeah, just wanted to bring that up. Let me see. And so today is Saturday. So normally I wouldn't go live on Saturday, but because we have the South Carolina primaries, I wanted to go live. Let me open. I'm gonna open CNN, see what they're talking about right quick with South Carolina, because they just love them some Biden. I'm just looking at my phone. I have to get it.
You know, he is going to need some wins after this. And you know what? After tonight, he might get them in some...
Shut up. Let's see. I have manipulating, taking somebody else's CNN subscription. Get me up out of here. So I got to manipulate it a little bit to get it on my TV, because the one that I have, because I'm looking, now I got to get my money right so I can get cable. But I got to make sure my internet stay live though. Let's see. Man. Okay, so this is, they tripping. I'm just trying to get this all together so I can give y'all some updates.
Break. As soon as Jake Tapper said, Vice President Mike Pence, who's leading the White House coronavirus task force.
Like I told y'all earlier, coronavirus has claimed one life in the state of Washington today. and no one knew that he had it. So, which means, what they said is that you can look at the coronavirus like you look at the flu. It's not the same thing, but it spreads the same way. So, think about someone getting the flu. Are you catching the flu? Because you all of a sudden you got the flu. And you can think about 15 people you passed by. You don't know who you got it from, but you caught it. And by the time you know you have it, imagine how many other people that you've given it to. Just like you didn't even realize you got it till you was probably about 13 steps removed from the person that gave it to you. That's how the coronavirus spreads. The difference is it kills at a much higher rate than the flu. The flu claims 0.01. Is it 0.01? Or 0.1% of the population in America. That's how many people die from the flu. 0.1. Coronavirus claims 2%. That's 20 times, and probably even 3 at the worst. That's 20 times more people than the flu claims. That's how much deadlier it is to the flu. Just to give you some context. Reply live, go Ty. So I think that's something that you guys should know. Okay, they're talking about putting Mike Pence. Mind you, Donald Trump has put Mike Pence in charge of the coronavirus, prevention team or task force. His vice president, who in Indiana, when they were having an AIDS epidemic, because a lot of people that were doing drugs were sharing needles, and his Congress proposed that they sponsor a program where people can go just get needles so they won't have to share them. He said, no, you guys should just pray. So in his head, he didn't want to sponsor giving away needles to stop the spread of HIV in Indiana. In Indiana, his proposal was to have people pray. As the governor of Indiana, this is what he proposed. He proposed shock therapy for homosexuality. This is the guy that Trump has put in charge of the coronavirus task force. Welcome to America. Or this is America. As Danny Glover says, this is America. So what do we know? That Biden ain't shit. We know that South Carolina doesn't matter. It's not indicative of the rest of the country. Just to let you know how people stand when it comes to being progressive, moderate, conservative, Republicans. They say, oh, the Democratic Party wants. Well, the Gallup report shows, and the Gallup report is very credible, is what CNN, MSNBC all use for polling and things like that. It shows that 42% of Americans identify politically as independent because they are frustrated with a two-party system. Only 30% identify as Democrats and 26% identify as Republicans. So the vast majority of Americans identify as independent, waiting on someone that can inspire them based on, I'm assuming, personality and politics. We don't need the Democratic Party. We can say half the let's say half the Democratic Party are progressives, right? We have that half plus this other 42% win the game, and I'm sure we'll get some Republicans. Washington D.C. significantly more U.S. adults continue to identify as political independents, 42% in 2018, than as either Democrats, 30%, or Republicans, 26%. At least 4 out of 10 Americans have been political independents in the 7 of the past 8 years, including a record high of 43 in 2014. This shows you the graph. The trend is based on aggregated data from all Gallup polls conducted in each year. The 2018 aggregated includes 13 separate surveys encompassing interviews with more than 13,000 U.S. adults. Gallup asked Americans in every poll it conducts whether they identify politically as Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Over the past 30 years, when Gallup has regularly conducted its survey by telephone, independents have typically outnumbered Republicans and Democrats. However, in just the past decade, an increasing proportion of adults have identified as independents, reaching 40% for the first time since 2011 and genuinely maintaining or exceeding that level since then. As a result, since 2011, the percentage of independents have exceeded the percentage identifying with Democratic Party by 11 points on average, and the percentage identifying as Republicans by 14 points. The one recent year in which independent identification fell below 40% was the 2016, when 39% of Americans did so. The dip that year is consistent with the historical pattern by which fewer Americans identify as independents in presidential election years, when a flood of publicity for the two major parties tend to activate partisan leaning. Since 1992, the percentage of independents has dropped 3 percentage points on average in presidential elections. Okay. So, I wanted to show you guys this video. The black guy, this is Chris Matthews, which is a guy who had to apologize to Bernie for these absurd parallels that he was saying, that Bernie winning in Nevada was parallel to France being invaded by the Germans in World War II. This is how much the mainstream media hates Bernie. They're going to compare him to World War II and comparing him to war. Bernie's Jewish. By the way, we know what happened during the Holocaust. And you have a guy comparing him to Germany's invasion of France. So he works for MSNBC, Chris Matthews, talking to Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn is the guy that is the majority whip in the state legislature in South Carolina who endorsed Joe Biden, which kind of helped propel him to victory tonight. But when he talks about his endorsement, he talks about his relationship, not about Biden being better for the country, but because I know him, y'all should trust me. Don't trust him lying about marching in the civil rights movement. Don't trust him lying about being arrested with Nelson Mandela. Don't trust him lying about plagiarizing his speeches as he ran for the presidential during the presidential elections in '88 and 2008. But check this out. This is fascinating.
Well, I'm very hopeful about tomorrow. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I think Joe Biden is going to do well in South Carolina. I certainly hope so. Joe Biden has been a longtime friend to this state and almost an adjunct resident of the state. He's been in and out of here for 25 or more years. It's nothing to walk into a restaurant down in Charleston and see Joe and Jill sitting there just chilling out for a weekend. And the people here in South Carolina appreciate him. He has a record that endears him to the people here. When he was chairing the Judiciary Committee, we extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. He wrote the Violence Against Women Act. He was a real force to be reckoned with when we were dealing with things like the Civil Rights Act, the housing law, fair housing laws. These things are almost second nature to Joe Biden. And so I'm very comfortable with him. He's been a very close personal friend over the years. My late wife was just crazy about Joe. And so I'm very comfortable supporting his candidacy. And I think the people of South Carolina would be very comfortable with his presidency were he to get there.
Well, let's talk politics in the future, sir. Let's talk about where this election is going to take us in South Carolina. How important it is, and what does it mean if Joe Biden is able to overtake Bernie Sanders and begin to win on primaries outside of South Carolina, especially on Super Tuesday next Tuesday? How important is that he be the front runner again?
Well, it's very important to all of our down ballot races because most of the people I talk to, almost to a person, every one of the Democrats who flipped seats 2 years ago, by and large, they are very favorable toward Joe Biden. They think that Joe Biden would do more to help them in their re-election bids than anybody else that is running. And that's what's so important. It's one thing to have the presidency. It's something else to have a House and a Senate that can be supportive of his programs. We know what it's like to have one body and not the other. Where would our Supreme Court be if Barack Obama had help in the Senate rather than the hindrances that he did have? Where would we be? Even if you go all the way back to laws that we passed during previous Republican administrations, even during Democratic administrations, we had with the Republican House. What kind of House would we be dealing with if we had another Newt Gingrich type running the House of Representatives? We need Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And the best insurance for that, I believe, is a Joe Biden candidacy that will hold on to the House, that'll give us a chance to win the Senate. Jamie Harrison is doing well here.
This is why they need term limits on the Congress, because you got all these people in the good, what do they call, the good fellas or the good boys club that are campaigning. Nancy Pelosi should really? She been in Congress for 50 years. No one knows how to pass the torch. They just want to maintain power. They have all these endorsements and all these corporations that they're in the pockets of all these corporations, and they don't want to pass it down. And he's over here, Jim is over here talking about, Nancy, everybody that he's talking about is 70 and older. Doesn't even represent how the rest of the country look. At least Bernie's politics represent how the rest of the country look and feel. But let me just give you an idea, because I want you to listen to what he was saying. And I'm going to show you this video. And then I'm going to show you exactly what it kind of mirrors. A lot of people forget. We like to forget how pundits were speaking and talking in 2016 when it came to Donald Trump and what he wouldn't do and what the Post didn't say. And, they talk about down ballots. The whole entire Republican Party has coalesced around Donald Trump. They've been winning seats. But that's not how they were speaking when he first started running for president under the Republican ticket.
Ask any of the 21 Democrats running for president in 2020 what the single most important thing they need to do next November is, and you'll get one clear answer: beat Donald Trump. Which brings me to a word you're going to be hearing a lot about over the next year or so: electability. It seems so simple. Electability is just the ability to get elected. It's right there in the word, electability. Except the whole notion of electability isn't simple, not at all. Let me offer an explanation for that from the not at all distant past. When Donald Trump started looking like a semi-serious candidate for the Republican presidential nomination in 2016, the electability police, I wonder if they have a badge, emerged. We can't nominate a thrice-married, 6 business bankruptcies under his belt reality TV star whose celebrity is built on the 2-word phrase, "You're fired," can we? Doing that would hand Hillary Clinton the presidency, and it might cost Republicans their House and Senate majorities. Trump, as the party's nominee, could end the GOP as we know it.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency.
I do think Donald Trump would be a disaster for the country and a disaster for our party, and I think we'd suffer the worst defeat since 1964.
He says the worst things possible about immigrants and women, and he's a complete idiot when it comes to Mideast policy. So I think over time, common sense will prevail. He's a showman. He's really good at that.
Quote, "For the sake of our party and country, we must move to overcome the divisiveness and vulgarity Donald Trump has brought into the political arena, or we will certainly lose our chance to defeat the Democratic nominee and reverse President Obama's failed policies." End quote. That was failed 2016 candidate Jeb Bush when announcing his endorsement of Ted Cruz's campaign against Trump that year. Of course, then Trump won the Republican nomination. Then he won the presidency, and Republicans held their majorities in the House and the Senate, which would seem to suggest that Trump had plenty of electability. I thank you very much. That brings me to the current debate within the Democratic Party about which candidate is best positioned to beat, you guessed it, Donald Trump in November 2020, and whether that question should even matter when picking a candidate. Now, voters say it does. In a recent Monmouth University poll, 56% said they would prefer a candidate with a good chance of beating Trump even if they disagreed with that candidate on most issues. Just 33% said they wanted someone who agreed with them on most policies even if that candidate wasn't running as strong against Trump. And Joe Biden, the former vice president and the 2020 frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, has built his entire candidacy on the idea that A, beating Trump is all that matters, and B, he is the candidate best positioned to do it. As the Washington Post's Eugene Robinson wrote recently of Biden, quote, "Joe Biden begins his presidential campaign with a lead over the crowded Democratic field and a simple message the nation can immediately grasp. I can stop the madness. I can beat Donald Trump." Biden's claim is based, generally speaking, on his long background in politics. He was first elected to the Senate in the 1970s, spent 8 years in the 2000s alongside Barack Obama in the White House, and combined with his record of working with Republicans and Democrats to find solutions for the problems facing the country. The way you beat the ultimate outsider, Donald Trump, is with the ultimate insider, goes the Biden argument. Americans tried something radically different in 2016, and they don't like what they got. Biden represents a return to normalcy. He knows how to do this. He's done it all before. There's a problem with that logic, of course. It relies on a whole lot of assumptions. Let me list just a few. Number one, voters want someone with a long record in politics to replace Trump. Number two, the best choice to replace a septuagenarian white male president is a septuagenarian white male former vice president. 3, voters want someone with a record in Congress of working across the political aisle. Truth be told, there isn't much actual proof that Biden would be the strongest general election challenger to Trump anyway. In fact, in a CNN poll released in April, former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke had the biggest lead, 10 points, over Trump in a series of hypothetical 2020 matchups. Biden led Trump by 6 points, which is the same margin that Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who is seen by many as the least electable Democratic candidate in the field, led Trump. Now, it's of course possible that Biden would actually be the strongest nominee against Trump. Biden is well known and generally well liked, but you only need to look as far as President Hillary Clinton or President John Kerry, long may he reign, to see the danger for Democrats in nominating a candidate solely because they are regarded as the candidate who is the most electable. Because electability is in the eye of the beholder, there's just no way to objectively measure what candidate has it and which don't. And that goes double for an election that's more than a year away. And that is the point. We make New Point episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.
I don't understand how Bernie is considered a frontrunner.
In New Hampshire, 52% of voters wanted either Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar or Joe Biden. Moderates are winning.
Why wasn't Buttigieg's win in Iowa a bigger banner headline? He also has upset Bernie Sanders in both states.
The story of the night. Amy Klobuchar, now in third place.
The story of the Sanders campaign so far this year is how much ground he's lost from 4 years ago.
Bernie Sanders may have eked out the most votes in Iowa and New Hampshire, but if you look at the numbers more closely, it shows a candidate hitting a ceiling. If you look at the combined percentages among the centrist candidates, they do much better than the progressives.
When you add up the totals, though, for Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and Joe Biden, when you add them up last night, that's more than half the electorate backing a moderate.
Buttigieg and Klobuchar and Biden split the moderate vote, with their combined percentage overwhelming that of Sanders, who got 26%.
I think it was right before a New Hampshire primary. I asked you after Iowa if you consider yourself the Democratic frontrunner. Now, after New Hampshire, do you? Who cares?
Sanders indeed won a smashing across-the-board victory, according to our entrance poll. He won among men and women, college graduates and non-college graduates, liberals and moderate/conservatives, union and non-union members, people who decided early and people who decided late. In short, Sanders crushed it.
Take a look here among self-described moderate or conservative Democrats. That's a third of this electorate in Nevada. This is what you're seeing. Sanders is actually leading.
NBC Wall Street Journal poll asked, who are you most enthusiastic or comfortable about when it comes to the Democratic nominee? Bernie Sanders leads with 65%.
He was powered by young voters, Hispanic voters, very liberal, and those who supported Medicare for all.
Largely people of color. Of those, the majority are Latino, and they are clearly, at least from eyeballing it, strongly in favor of Bernie Sanders, with Joe Biden coming in second.
It's going to be the end of days. So I am scared to death. I really am. There's a certain part of the Democratic Party that wants us to be a cult. I'm not interested in being in a cult. I'm 75 years old. I'm just not a very culty person. I'm 75 years old. Why am I here doing this? Because I am scared to death. That's why. The happiest person right now, it's about 1:15 Moscow time. This thing is going very well for Vladimir Putin. I promise you. He's probably staying up watching us right now. How you doing, Vlad?
I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940, and the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, it's over. And Churchill said, how can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over? He said, it's over. So I had that suppressed feeling. I can't be as wild as Carville, but he is damn smart, and I think he's damn right on this one. I have my own views of the word socialist, and I'll be glad to share them with you in private. And they go back to the early 1950s. I have an attitude about them. I remember the Cold War. I have an attitude towards Castro. I believe if Castro and the Reds had won the Cold War, there would have been executions in Central Park, and I might have been one of the ones getting executed. And certain other people would be there cheering, okay? So I have a problem with people who took the other side. I don't know who Bernie supports over these years. I don't know what he means by social. 1 week it's Denmark. We're going to be like Denmark. Okay, that's harmless. That's basically a capitalist country with a lot of good social welfare programs. Denmark is harmless.
It's pretty clearly in the Denmark category, yeah.
Are you sure? How do you know? Did he tell you that?
Well, I mean, that's what he says, and that's what his agenda calls for.
I don't understand how Bernie is considered a frontrunner.
In New Hampshire, 52% of voters.
So that's, I hear you, Eric. I see you out there. That's what Bernie's been dealing with. I'm gonna pound that in your head because this is just the truth and people need to know. There's a bias. The bias is Bernie's been standing for this for 30 years. Bernie didn't adjust his politics to what was popular. Politics adjusted to Bernie. And that's why he's in this unique position that we see him in today. Is because we got to a point where the pendulum just shifted. Because he's always had this stance. He didn't adjust. He's always had this. And things shifted. And now it's all in his lane. And so now you see him. So you should be able to trust him. And you look at everyone's platform. Look at the platforms of 2016. Hillary Clinton thought $15 an hour was way too much. She thought $15 an hour as a minimum wage was entirely too much. Check it out. Before they got into the end of the primary, when she first started running, she thought $15 an hour was too much. And then she started to see the attitudes of the American people. But as it goes today, Biden has won his first primary, which doesn't say a lot. The only thing that it actually says is that he may be able to make it to Super Tuesday. But considering that he has no footing in any of the 14 states, no money, no commercials, we'll see how he's going to fare there. Because in a lot of those states, people aren't moved by Biden. They know who he is. Let's watch this. This is Status Coup on Rising on the Hill earlier today, talking to some voters on the ground in South Carolina. I think this is good to check out. Matter of fact, I am.
Do you think Bernie's message, and more importantly, the organizing, his campaign is an organizing machine right now. Yeah. Do you think that could actually translate to young people coming out in the record numbers he's talking about?
I think so. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to join in the campaign was because that Bernie speaks to a lot of issues that are affecting a lot of young people, specifically here. You have problems with gentrification, you have problems with housing, you have problems with education, you have problems with healthcare.
Joining us now is Jordan Sheridan himself. He's CEO of the Status Coup. Good to see you, Jordan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jordan, so you've been on the ground. You've been talking to a lot of voters down there. Tell us a little bit about how they're feeling in particular. The polls right now are really all over the map, and it seems like it could be anybody's game.
At the end of this week is the FEC reporting period. Let's make sure we have some good numbers out there. Any help you can give us would be.
Yeah, the organizers I've spoken to with Bernie's campaign seems like they're trying a similar strategy here than they tried. So South Carolina actually has small but decent Latino population. So they've been going into areas with a Latino population as well as indigenous people. And I've actually spoken with people and seen photos where they've been going into mobile communities where no campaign has ever gone in. That's the response they're getting, that they've never had anyone come to talk to them. So Bernie's campaign for several months now has really been trying to kind of thread that needle, galvanize the youth vote, but also try and go into areas that traditionally have not been spoken to. And the response has been positive from what I'm hearing. A lot of younger African Americans were fairly open to the message. And even older African Americans, I've heard from Bernie volunteers, once they kind of broke through that socialism thing, they've been getting some positive feedback.
You know, one of the big developments there on the ground was James Clyburn's endorsement of Joe Biden. The polling that we've seen, which has been kind of all over the map, seems to show Biden opening up more of a gap post-Nevada and especially post-debate. How do you see dynamics there on the ground, and do you think the Clyburn endorsement is significant?
I think with a certain sect of voters in South Carolina, it will be significant. But I've actually spoken with a lot of organizers for Bernie, but also some older African Americans, that it seems that there's a disconnect between what we traditionally think that they will go the incremental Joe Biden way and what they're telling me, particularly older African Americans. They are very, very focused on Social Security and those types of things. So I think the messaging that Bernie's campaign has done down here about Biden's record on Social Security has broken through a bit. I'll also say, obviously, the polls show Biden in a lead, but organizers I've spoken with, it's remarkable. You know, they get the response from a lot of older African American voters. Well, you know, he's a nice guy, but I can't do socialism. And then the organizers pivot to explaining that, you know, Martin Luther King was a democratic socialist. And do you know that we already have programs in America that are socialist? And all of a sudden, the people that they're door knocking and speaking to, they kind of change a little bit. And they're like, oh, you know, thanks for reminding me. So obviously the polls show what they show. But anecdotally, what I'm hearing from a lot of organizers, but also the voters I've spoken to, is openness to Bernie and not really not a lot of excitement for Biden. It's more like, well, you know, we know Joe kind of thing. I'll also say that I've spoken with more than one organizer that a lot of the African Americans down here were unaware of some, let's just say, flexibility with the truth the vice president has had regarding his civil rights records in particular. So I don't know how it will play out, but at least in you know, the southern parts of the states, as well as some of the western parts of the state, Barnwell County, Bamberg County, where traditionally a lot of campaigns have not gone, the Bernie Sanders campaign is getting a positive result.
That's interesting, Jordan. So take us a little bit more inside that strategy. The Bernie strategy in Iowa was young people plus the Latino community, people in the satellite caucuses that are not traditionally served. In South Carolina, what are those populations that they're hyper-targeting, which other campaigns?
At the end of this week is the FEC reporting period. Let's make sure we have some good numbers out there. Any help?
I hate that.
Are kind of dismissing
These commercials.
Yeah, well, goes without saying, they've been really, really going hard at the colleges. So, you know, University, Charleston College, colleges in Columbia and elsewhere. So trying to expand the youth vote, which is obviously a tall task in politics, but they definitely, from the people I've spoken to, have registered a lot more young voters than 2016. Also, as I was mentioning, Latino population, indigenous population. I also think they're focusing on that sweet spot, you know, like that 45 to age 55. You know, it is. Let's just be real. It's difficult to convince over 65 voters, particularly African American voters, that tend to go with the candidate they're most familiar with. but they have been targeting that kind of demo that's not quite elderly yet, but isn't, millennial. They're kind of in that middle ground. And one response that they've been getting, which I guess shows there's some benefit to losing. Some canvassers that I've spoken with who were there in 2016, they didn't know Bernie in 2016. Now, at least, they don't really have to explain who Bernie is. People know who Bernie is down here now, but they're open to it. One thing, the voters that I've spoken with and some canvassers, the feedback that they're getting is a lot of the voters are starting to feel more open to somebody else than Joe Biden beating Trump. Biden has obviously been hammering that message that he's the most electable, but they were not impressed. The media tends to say South Carolina doesn't really follow Iowa and New Hampshire, but there are voters I've spoken with that are a little wish-washy that he hasn't done so well before South Carolina. So that's been interesting. But yeah, I think the Bernie's campaign, listen, they've been really focusing hard on getting out young people, those areas that generally campaigns don't go to. And I think that sweet spot, not quite 65 and older, but not 40 and under either, right between those two.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I went to one of those South Carolina schools. I went to Clemson, started my college career there. Yeah. So I know it well. Jordan, how is the Biden organization on the ground? He hasn't exactly wowed with his organizational abilities in any other state, but South Carolina was always seen as the firewall. It always seemed to be a place where they invested disproportionate resources. Are you seeing those sort of signs of life in terms of their organizational prowess on the ground in the state?
At the end of this week is the FEC reporting period. Let's make sure we have some good numbers out there. Any help you can give us would be much appreciated. We are...
Goddamn, Bernie.
If organization means actually having living bodies knocking on doors, yes, they have those here. Iowa and New Hampshire, not so much.
Right.
So it seems like Biden's campaign really focused on South Carolina almost as their first state, because they do have more of a canvasser operation here. It's more organized than the previous states. I've also compared to Iowa and New Hampshire, when I'm driving, I'm hearing all sorts of ads on the radio for Joe Biden. He's all over television here, whereas in New Hampshire in particular, it was like he was missing in action. But as far as the door knocking, they're definitely organized, not on the same wavelength as Bernie, which is a much, much more polished, organizing machine.
So, Jordan is out there right now. He's on the ground in South Carolina, talking to people on the ground. So that's kind of where I want to be as far as like the section and being on the ground, talking to the people, not sitting and pontificating in some studio behind a mic, trying to articulate for a certain group of people how they're feeling in a certain area, but allowing a platform for them to be able to speak for themselves. So as we continue to grow, this is our channel, and I'm talking about me and the people who follow, so as we continue to move forward, and we are being sick and tired of the corporate media, then we have to put our money where our mouth is and support independent media. And as you grow to love and support like my disposition and what I'm doing, then you support it. I'll have like monthly memberships available from $5 to $25 that you would pledge a month. It would be like a monthly membership, and we'll do super chats where we can chat on YouTube and you leave money. But this is a team. This is teamwork. It's going to be us. It's going to be you, me, and everyone that we get involved to be able to have independent media where you won't be controlled by certain corporations. Like, remember Ed Schultz, how MSNBC fired him, before he died, because he said he was going to speak favorably about Bernie Sanders. And as you guys see now, I showed you clips before how All those clips that was disparaging against Bernie Sanders was all MSNBC. They used to hate him. I think the the corporation hated him, Disney, and they fired a lot of anchors that wanted to promote him or be more favorable in their reporting of him. They fired them. Now that they see that he's the front runner, they're starting to change up. They literally just on Vanity Fair put out an article talking about they need to get more anchors that are, favorable towards Bernie. I mean, it's been so bad. Like I said, Chris Matthews had to apologize for comparing Bernie Sanders' win in Nevada to the German invasion of France. How absurd is that? I'm going to show you. Just in case you wasn't here yesterday. Because I showed this yesterday. Let's see. 3 weeks ago. Nope. 4 years ago. Matthews apologized. He probably buried it. Goddamn, Bernie. Bernie has a commercial, but obviously YouTube too. Bernie has a commercial in every
We are doing well. And you know what?
We have an update to a previous story about Chris Matthews, who had some, I think, offensive comments about Bernie Sanders' win in Nevada, and he likened it to the Nazi takeover of France in the 1940s, which seems ridiculous and is ridiculous, but he actually had a great apology, so we want to update you on all that, on that story.
Before getting into tonight's news, I want to say something quite important and personal. As I watched the one-sided results of Saturday's Democratic caucus in Nevada, I reached for an historical analogy and used a bad one. I was wrong to refer to an event from the last days, or actually the first days of World War II. Senator Sanders, I'm sorry for comparing anything from that tragic era in which so many suffered, especially the Jewish people, to an electoral result in which you were the well-deserved winner. This is going to be a hard-fought, heated campaign of ideas. In the days and weeks and months ahead, I will strive to do a better job myself of elevating the political discussion. Congratulations, by the way, to you, Senator Sanders, and to your supporters on a tremendous win down in Nevada.
So that was, I think, a very good apology, even though he was looking so hard at that teleprompter. He did not want to miss one word, but credit where it's due, good apology.
Yeah, I mean, he said it. It didn't seem overly begrudging, and this is what we want. I mean, some people were saying he should be fired, but others were saying he should apologize. And I was hoping that they would make it clear that this sort of thing is not company policy to smear a Jewish presidential candidate as Hitler himself.
Any of them.
And so I think that this is good. I think if they can respond to criticism, that's awesome. I happen to see that a network executive at MSNBC is saying that they want to hear more smart pro-Bernie Sanders voices. I would say maybe don't do that in like month 13 of a candidacy where he was always doing really well. That seems like it took you a long time. But feel free to tweet at them if you have suggestions of people you'd like to see fill that hole on their network.
I think it works. I mean, we always talk about bad apologies. That was a good one. Because then it gives you the idea that he understands the problem, addressed it, apologized, and then said, we'll do it differently. Now, of course, the spotlight will be on him to see if he actually does. And it'll be fine. Again, I feel like it was such an off-the-cuff moment where he thought he was making this great analogy, and then he wanted to really show the heightened nature of it. But you gotta think before you say things. And as you said, he was burning a hole through the teleprompter because he knows.
I mean, that's an exaggerated analogy. He knew that. That's the most extreme analogy. That somehow Bernie's winning the delegates in Nevada is kin to the Nazis' invasion of France, knowing that Bernie Sanders is Jewish and that he had family that died in the Holocaust. He talks about it a lot. And even Chris Matthews is Jewish. It's amazing, to say the least.
Every word has to count now. So I don't know, maybe he'll use them a lot more, but of course during political analysis you can't. But again, this is a reset of the brain, and maybe he needed it going forward, and I believe him.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
So yeah. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign out. This is where we are. February 29th, the last day of the month. Joe Biden has won the South Carolina primary, and now we go to Super Tuesday, which is 14 states plus a territory: Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. California and Texas being the largest states in Super Tuesday, holding California 228 delegates, and California 415 delegates, and Texas 228. And in both those states, who is winning as far as delegates are concerned? If we have that available right now, going into Super Tuesday, thinking about Super Tuesday, this computer just loves to take its time. Take its sweet time. Take its sweet time, baby. Let's see who's winning in those big states. So it looks like right now, as you can see, these are the candidates going into Super Tuesday. And the color here matches the color there. So in California, the biggest states in Super Tuesday, 28 points Bernie's winning by. And in Texas, 22 points. North Carolina, 21 points. Virginia, 25 points. Massachusetts, 20 points. Colorado, 30 points. Utah, 27 points. Maine, 25 points. Vermont, 51 points. The only three states that he's not winning in is Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Minnesota, which Arkansas, Oklahoma, I think is going to Bloomberg, if I'm not mistaken. This thing won't let me move up. Let's see. After it adjusts itself. There we go. Come on now. Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. Let's see, who is that? That is Bloomberg, yeah. So the other three states Bloomberg is winning in, which, let's see. Yeah, Gray. I think he's winning in two, and then this is Amy Klobuchar, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, see? Amy, Bloomberg. Those are winning, but he's winning in all the other states, Bernie. So as we move into Super Tuesday, South Carolina's over, and we're going into Super Tuesday, where you have the most delegates, the most voters, and I think in Super Tuesday, you have a third of all delegates available will be given out that one day. That's why it's so super. So, I holla. You guys, like I said, we're starting it. Please follow us on Twitter, IG, Facebook, YouTube at The Section Independent. On IG and Twitter is The Section _INDE. And then on Facebook and YouTube is The Section Independent. but we are the section. So, got your checklist going on. Let's see. We can loop. Position. Line. Nope. Remember position. Wanna loop this mug. Yeah. Let's loop it. Let's loop it. Checklist, to-do list. You see the man, follow the man. Follow the little man. Checklist, follow the little man. Follow us, subscribe, and like the page. Tell your friends about us. We're going to be doing a lot more. It's going to be a lot more organized as we grab our footing. But, you know, we're going. So, you guys keep it real. I appreciate you. And I'll see you soon. Maybe tomorrow, but definitely Monday. Peace.